Let's go back to the High Court today. The high-speed rail line that is planned to run through North East Oxfordshire has gone to the High Court in London today. Many people who live along the route that will go from London to Birmingham are strongly opposed to it. People believe that the public consultation did not take into consideration their views, and that's what is actually being specifically discussed in the High Court. Our political reporter Emma Vardy has been outside court today.
Well, James, it's a group of local councils that are challenging the government here, Cherwell District Council being our representative from Oxfordshire. And today was the first of 2 days that the councils have got to set out why they believe the government is wrong to go ahead with plans for high-speed rail. Now, the legal team went through all kinds of arguments as to why the government's actions, they claim, were flawed. This morning was largely concerned with things like the public consultation, and they said that there was inadequate information for that consultation to have been fair. Then this afternoon moved on to everything about the environmental impact and claims that the government had made decisions to go ahead with HS2 without fully understanding its impact. Now, James, you can imagine with such a big project, there are all sorts of, finer, complicated points to be argued over. But really, what it boils down to is that lots of people on the route are just determined to fight against having high-speed trains cutting through the countryside. Well,
let's speak to one of those people. Joe Rukin is from the campaign group Stop HS2 and has been in court today. Joe, how have you found things?
Oh, I've found it brilliant. It's taken a long while for us to get to this point where we're actually in court, and we'd have loved not to have been here. We'd have loved the government to have listened a lot sooner, but unfortunately they've been completely intransigent about everything. Here we are. HS2 Limited have been saying they've done everything properly, that everything was within the law, and if that wasn't in doubt, the judge wouldn't have even allowed the case to have happened. There's so many things that they've got wrong from start to finish, and it is great now that we are finally having these heard in court.
Right, now, you think the judge is listening to your concerns then?
Absolutely. It's obviously there's not much we can talk about specifically what's happening, and we're not meant to express opinions, but absolutely the judge is listening. We've got to put our faith in the legal due process.
Now,
obviously with the law, it's always up in the air. You never know which way things are going to go, but we are here, and the judge. You have to remember that the judge agreed to hear the 5 cases in the first place, which was a very positive thing. He could have said, no, there's no case to answer, and that would have been that, but it's not, and here we are.
There was some news today about new information about passenger figures. Can you explain those?
Yes. Basically, for the last 2 years, the Department for Transport has point-blank refused to release any of the figures relating to the actual passenger numbers on the West Coast Main Line. Now, those are massively important because obviously not only will they, prove whether or not HS2 is needed, but also they will prove whether or not the alternative that the 51M group of councils has put forward would work. And finally, the Treasury solicitors caved in on Friday, and they've released the figures for last year for 2011, and peak trains, the 3 peak hours coming out of Euston, the loading factor is 52.2%. They are only just half full, which in peak hours, obviously when the prices are higher, we knew this would be the case, and it absolutely torpedoes the case for high-speed rail. And one of the things that we've always argued is what you need to do is declassify some of the first-class carriages, make them into standard. More people will travel because it will be cheaper and that you have more space. In peak hours, loading in first class is 35.2, so just over a third of the seats are full in peak hours.
Well, Joe, it's interesting.
Absolutely terrible.
It's interesting those figures are now out. But let's look forward to the end of this. What's the ideal outcome for you from this judicial review?
Well, the ideal outcome is that it's concluded that the consultation was conducted improperly, illegally, that various other things have been done completely wrong. For example, the environmental assessments should have happened. The environmental impact analysis should have happened before the decision to go ahead. And that's not just the environmental impact analysis on HS2, but on the alternatives as well. And they haven't even done it on HS2 yet. They have to go back to the drawing board. They have to go back to stage 1. And the problem has always been that there was never a strategic decision on what was best for the country. country. It was just, we're going to do high-speed rail. And if they have to go back to that point where they actually have to think about what is best for the country, high-speed rail will not be the answer.
Joe, good talking to you. Joe Rukin from the campaign group Stop HS2.